Welcome back to the Line Podcast. My name is Aaron Alexander, and this is a place that we bring together the world's leading experts in all things health and wellness to help you optimize your mind, body, and movement. Today's conversation is all about sound frequencies and the way that they affect our physiology, as well as the other frequencies that we are continually bathing in the form of EMF, electromagnetic frequencies that are coming off of your smart devices and the cell phone towers and things of the sort. What is the effect of those on our physiology? Is it something to be concerned about? And if it is there a path for us to be able to buffer some of the effects from those frequencies? That's what we get into with our guest, Pavel Stuchlik, who also goes by Noah Ayon. He is a brilliant facilitator of breathwork as well as a music producer, and he guides people into emotional healing by facilitating breathwork and sound. So I wanted to get in and unpack this with the scientific mind like he has. What exactly is happening during breath work? What exactly is happening with the relationship of sound? Is that a bunch of hooey? Is there some real data-driven science around that? Is it somewhere in between? What is happening when we are huffing and puffing and breathing in a certain pattern? How does that cause us to bring up certain emotions or perhaps traumatic memories or experiences and be able to process and move through them? What the hell is going on with that? I've experienced quite a bit of that. I've done 40 or so breathwork experiences, and they've all been quite impactful for me. So I was excited to share that with you guys today. Also, if you tune into the end of this episode, you can try a sample of his breathwork. It's a 15-minute thing. I highly recommend you saving this because it is freaking incredible. It really, truly was very impactful. I'm so excited to have this saved myself. I will absolutely be returning to this. So if you just go to the last 15 minutes of this episode, you will hear the full 15-minute breathwork cycle that you could repeat. You could do it with other people. You could play it in the background at your house. It's a real amazing gift to have. So last 15 minutes of this episode, highly recommend checking that out. Also, if you want to learn more about Pavel and his work, you can visit him over at noaayon.com. That's noaaon.com. On there, you can learn about breath work. You can learn about meditation. You can also get into some EMF protection, which is also very valuable in my opinion. So here we go, back to the podcast with my guy, Pavel, aka Noah Ayon. Mother flippin' Pavel. We just went through some pretty heavy duty breath work, and you are a really, truly a brilliant facilitator of that. I've done quite a bit. And that was really exceptional. Like the visualization that we went through, and then leading into the breath work, and it was a much shorter version of breath work and very, very impactful. So people listening now, jump to the end if you would like to do the breath work. It was a little 15-minute segment, and I think it's just like an amazing tool to have. I think return back to this episode at minute whatever that is. I think we can mention the show notes, so you can jump into that and use that if you ever have 15 minutes and you want to completely like transform your whole entire day. I would recommend checking that out. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
Yeah, what from a scientific lens / we can enter into like the metaphysical weeds as well. What is breathwork, particularly the style of breathwork that we just did, which is kind of like Stan Grof, kind of Wim Hof holotropic type style / your own style. But when I say that, it's, you're kind of like hyperventilating. Like what is that? What's happening there, and why does it drum up so much emotion with people? I have some ideas on this as well, but like what's going on there?
Well, so it's interesting, right? So about 6 or 7 years ago, I went through a Wim Hof instructor course. And it was so interesting to me back then because the story began when I went to Poland and I actually walked into the Polish retreat sick with literally chronic fatigue and Epstein-Barr. And I walked out of there healthy. And that's, by the way, what escalated for me to even get into breathwork was through the Wim Hof family. Now, in this process, I've started experimenting with it because I'm an avid seeker of truth on every level. And if there is a new tool, I'm going to try it, or I'm going to do it. I'm going to embrace it. And if it works, I'm going to bring it to the rest of the people, because I live in service. That is what my why is. Now, what's interesting about this breath is this one actually doesn't have that much science, just for the record. So the foundation of Wim Hof, retention breathing, that's the one I always start with, because it does have the most science. It's been validated. And I like to use that initial breathing rhythm. You inhale deeper than you exhale, through your belly, through your chest, all the way in your head, and using your diaphragm for that purpose, as a great, like a gateway portal to these states. Now, we did about 15 to 20 inhales. So we didn't even do the full 30 to 40, which is the recommended amount for Wim Hof breathing.
I was fully tripping. I don't know what it was exactly. I also, full disclosure, I drank ayahuasca like 3 days ago. So there's probably some level of
it will reactivate it.
Probably some level of like hyper rational people listening right now that are like rolling their eyes like, oh boy, here we go. But that was an interesting thing. I was like, whoa, I'm like right back in it. Like, damn, son.
Well, so by the way, I love using this breath with ayahuasca. So actually, while you're on different psychedelics, it helps you go further. But here's the thing: what we think, which is now being studied, but it doesn't have the science yet, is with the squeezes, it's kind of like a power breath where you're oversaturate first, you keep on breathing, and then you hold your breath on inhale. And when you do those squeezes, you're essentially pushing that oxygen up towards your head, which with pineal gland, with stimulating that area with oxygen, is gonna do the trick. Now, you're also over supplying yourself with CO2. So that's another thing that happens, is instead of lack of CO2, which is the typical, hold your breath on exhale, you go straight to the overload of CO2, which, has its own massive amount of benefits for our healing in a short burst of time. So,
go on. Well, it seems like what's I experienced with that of like my story of why it opens a person up, or part of why it opens a person up to potentially like opening the doors for deeply held stress and quote unquote traumas, or like imprints in the nervous system to start to come to the surface. It is replicating kind of like a panic, but it's a panic from a safe, resourced space where you're, probably have like I've got like a comfy rug thing here and a comfy blanket, and I'm sitting on a cushion, and, I feel safe with you. And it's almost taking a person's nervous system into that like fight, flight, sympathetic, oh my God, there's something to be traumatized about right now, but I'm safe. So it feels almost like it flips into channels of maybe deeper holdings. This is obviously not scientific the way I'm describing this at all. But is there anything to that of how it kind of opens a person up into oftentimes like deep emotion?
Well, so actually to that, I can speak a lot. So about right before COVID, I did an Australian tour, and I was followed by a group of scientists that actually took my system reset experience, and they had a EEG headband with real life tracking and a report right after to say and what happens during that time. So if we look at it from the brainwave perspective, I know that it gets you into state of flow, and it also, you're hitting a really heavy theta, delta, and alpha. So you're jumping between alpha, theta, delta brain frequencies, which obviously, beta is the thinking mind, which is where we spend way too much time. That's the overthinking. Alpha is awesome, right? That's like that one step below, where we can open up the creative mind. But then theta, now we're accessing the subconscious mind, where old traumas and old things can start coming up to the surface. And so this is why I love using breath work to take people through these coming back in time, because it allows it to just bring it to the surface, whatever your psyche thinks it needs to be, faced at that given moment. Kind of like when you do mushrooms or ayahuasca or that kind of does it for you. Here, you're doing it yourself.
Yeah. Is there much of a from a neurological perspective, difference in the brain waves that are produced in a psychedelic experience compared to a breath induced, what feels to be psychedelic experience?
No, I mean, I think if you look at holotropic breath, I mean, it was literally designed after LSD was banned in the 70s. So
Mm.
it's absolutely doing the same thing. And I would even argue that you can go further and deeper because it's you who can control that.
It's funny. It's like in Texas, abortions are legal, so people just fly to Arizona. It's like, okay, LSD's we'll just do breath work. You can't.
It's a good
People want
organic
to do it.
solution.
If people want to do a thing, they're going to do a thing. They're going to figure it out.
Absolutely. Well, and that's sometimes fear, pain also creates new innovations, right?
Then maybe they go to Arizona. They're like, wow, I really like Arizona. I like Arizona better than Texas, actually. You've lost me, Texas. I'm out of here. Arizona's a great place.
No, but it's funny. So because I do agree and understand that we have to have some sort of technology for today's rational mind, right?
Yeah.
So I'm actually so after this scientific breakthrough, I've been working with the company to create group coherence. So in about 3 months, what I'm rolling out in the States is classes where people will have this little headband, kind of like a heart rate monitor for your brain, and you will be able to tell exactly get a report, where were you at, but you can also do real life activation where, for instance, if you have 51% of the group in theta, it can change the color or it can give you a trigger sound as a neurofeedback in a real life. And that's kind of, by the way, where I'm heading with this is my whole mission is to unify the world, but I want to show people that they're actually doing it, so that way there's no doubt about it.
Hmm. And did you stumble across some of this stuff you have pretty extensive time doing darkness retreats. I just did a darkness retreat as well. I'm essentially like an Austin, Texas cliche. Just got done doing ayahuasca and darkness retreat in the last 6-month period. It's like embarrassing and awesome at the same time. Not actually embarrassing, but embarrassing in the sense how cliche it sounds to talk about out loud. But you've done, over the last 4 years, you've been annually doing 10-day darkness sets, no light, with no food as well. And water? Is there water?
Water. Yep. Some people do
I'm
it
glad that you have
dry,
water. Jesus.
but
Crazy.
that's a whole different conversation.
Why? So I did 4 days. I like to say 4 days, 5 nights, because I'm insecure. So I make sure I get that extra five number in there. But it was 108 hours of like hanging out in the little room, which is interesting because prayer beads are 108 beads. I don't know if it's probably not relevant. Maybe it's relevant. I don't know. Why do you do that continually? You keep going back to it. What have you learned from that? And what would someone that hasn't had an experience like that, what could they learn from you, like, and what you've brought from those experiences?
Yeah, so I maybe have to unbuckle a little bit, kind of what even got me there. So basically the last 15 years, I've been just traveling the world, and at first I was living the life that I thought was by society norms, right? Get a job and make money, and living in this box, which made me extremely unhappy, depressed, and suicidal at portions of my life,
Mm.
and essentially. This is about, so since young age, I actually grew up with shaman since I was 5 years old. And so I had this energy, understanding, spirituality, but I was always pushing it back because I wanted to live life here on earth, and it wasn't as accepted as it is today. So it wasn't until later that I actually, understood that this is an amazing, tools to understand the energetics.
Could you define shaman? Because I think that's one of those words that, again, people can hear and be like, I don't know what that means exactly. I have stories about what that is. Like, how does one define shaman from your perspective?
Shaman is somebody that is here as a connection to the spiritual. So there's different types of shamans. There's the shamans that use other, I would say, technologies, but it's really, ayahuasca. It's psychedelics. It's a gatekeepers of holding space to this wisdom. There are other shamans that don't use it at all, that actually will access it, directly. Then there's also generational shamans that have been raised up from, whatever, Siberia, Africa, and beyond, which again always do something with spirit. And And again, we can get into this a little bit later, because I actually spent a month with the psychics at a psychic village in Brazil to
Wow.
actually understand what this whole thing means. And I want to give these tools out because everybody is psychic, everybody has this connection, but we've
Yeah.
been told to be limited. We've been taught to be fearful. We've been taught that if you see something unseen, you're going nuts. And that's a ridicule that we have to,
Well, you
get
can
around.
even hear in the cautiousness of my tone talking about these things, of kind of like the imprint of that, where it's kind of like, oh boy, like if you open yourself up to the mystical, to even suggest that you are open to that, you're already anticipating stones being thrown. So you're kind of like, oh no, like that's not me. I'm rational guy. And so bridging that gap between like deductionism and rationalism and scientism and, you know, dualism and all of that, super valuable, like, or an amazing tool. It's just not the only tool. It's no disrespect to one tool or the other. It's just, I think there's value in creating space for both sides.
Well, and that's honestly, that's the why we're here, right? So many people go either spiritual and then they get lost in, not having money and
Yeah.
propounding upon the society. And then
Yeah.
there's the other part that are super rational, right? I want to make millions and just be all about like living the money, sex, power game, right?
Yeah.
But really, we're supposed to integrate these. And if you think of any like ascended masters or true spiritual healers and gurus, what they did is they realized that we are a spiritual being, right? There's a drop of an life force that is given to us when we're born, but living a physical experience. And so there's nothing wrong with being abundant, having money, having cars, having houses, but it's when we get attached to it, and when that is the only sole purpose of our being is when we get in trouble.
Having urges and desires and shadows and like all of like the harder stuff, like I think that's something that can happen with a person. Like Ram Dass has a bit where he talks about, righteousness being like the last gate between, or the last step before getting into like the higher gates, like the actual, like really getting into heaven, like into unicity. And being in that place of like, oh, I'm a righteous, I do everything right. I keep my spine straight. I cleanse myself. I pee on my face each day and I do my exfoliation, whatever thing. And I'm just like this completely pure vessel. And then, but I'm kind of simultaneously like looking down at other people, which is creating separation. And I'm doing the exact same thing that I'm just being a hypocrite, essentially. I'm doing the thing that I suggest to stand against, but ultimately it's coming to a point of like, no against. That's a thing that I've witnessed in the New Age circles quite a bit.
Well, I'll tell you, I call it the spiritual illusionist ego. So there's all of these like levels of ego that we process through, and then the highest level of ego is this ego that is so conscious, that is subconsciously conscious of consciousness itself, and that will literally explain every single reason for why this is not good for my spiritual growth, or you know what I mean. But that is also not that is our ego. That is not the higher calling or the higher self speaking through us.
Yeah. So yeah. Sorry, I keep interrupting you, but go on with what you were sharing with Shaman and your experience and kind of what brought you into pursuing darkness and things of the like.
Yeah. No. So it's funny. I've been living in a tennis match my whole life. I've been doing the good stuff, the bad stuff, and I had this dark part of myself, this what I call Aeon. And then I had this good guy or good part of myself, what I call the Noah. And so, by the way, the whole Noah Aeon, Noah means movement, Aeon is all or none, and it symbolizes duality. And I don't know about you, but I've struggled with these two voices. There's been always that good voice and then that bad voice. The bad voice got me into the downward spiral, the degenerative part of my life, where I took drugs and alcohol, and I hurt my wife and hurt other people, and making choices that were destructive.
Yeah.
Then I always wanted to make it up, right? So I would go and after a long night out, take green juices and do my intermittent fasting and get a glutathione shot, whatever that might have been. And I was a hypocrite for a long time because already I was teaching this stuff, but yet I was not integrated into what I like to call the harmony. So in the middle of my logo, is the center point that is living outside of duality. When we face our issues, when we take charge of our life, when we stop victimizing ourselves off of, what's happening to us, but rather take control of our mind. Number one, what are those thoughts that keep on coming back to you? Take control of our physical health, our physical body, because if we don't retune this instrument, how can you even open up to more? Take control of your emotional stuff, and especially for men, it's been taught after time that emotions are weakness, and crying is not a way of being in a masculinity, and essentially really facing all these relationships and past traumas. And then I opened myself to the spiritual stuff, which is the spiritual body, the aspect of the psychic senses. And, everybody has them. And maybe I'll quickly touch up on this because it's really interesting. Because before, I never believed in this, and none of this, by the way. So everything that I say, I went through it, I did the work, and there is no doubt that I'm not living it. Otherwise, I don't share it. And so when it comes to the spiritual self, our essence is talking to us through these 4 senses. So we've got 5 physical senses that a lot of times get us in trouble in life when we're a little bit too overly exposed to the short gains. And then we've got the spiritual senses. And so I'll give you an example. We've got something called psychic hearing. And that is the little inner voice inside of all of us that tells us, stop watching Netflix at midnight. Maybe, go and work out in the morning instead of staying lazy. And it's this silent voice that we continuously override and don't listen to. And when we don't listen to it long enough, life gets us in trouble. It will get us into realignment. Now, then we've got this noisy voice, right? Just to give you an example of the difference, that is our mind. That is the construct of all that we've learned in the past, projecting into the future. And that is something we need to recalibrate. Of course, we need to rewire our thoughts and how we think. But that is not that voice that has your highest interest. It's limited again. So that's the psychic hearing. Now, how do you build this up? You acknowledge it, and most importantly, you follow what it's saying. Because the minute you start following and acknowledging, thank you, I heard that experience or that information, and you follow through it, that voice will get louder and louder. And again, this is from personal experience. It's incredible how this voice is always there for you. Now, then we've got psychic seeing. So it's that would be that pineal gland or third eye, different cultures call it different things. This is my visionaries. So anybody that's a visionary that sees a new idea, new business plan, new, summer vacation, we're calling in that vision from somewhere in the future, bringing it into, our presence. And again, whenever we see it, we just want to acknowledge it. Thank you. I saw that, and follow that. Yeah. Now, lucid dreaming, or could be another form of this. Some people can really read their dreams, and I'm not one of them, but those that are, they will know right away. Then we've got psychic knowing that comes around your fontanelle. All of the ancient yogis, they always tap you right here to keep your consciousness there. And when you know, you don't think. When you think, you don't know. Yeah. So this is the way you discern that. When you knew you shouldn't have gone to the party, you knew that person would, cheat on you, or you knew it. There was no doubt about it. So that's the third one. And the fourth one is psychic feeling, or also empath. It's another way that, people call it in this field. And that is from your solar plexus. If you extend your energy up into your hands, and then you're feeling a space, you're feeling a person, you're feeling a situation. And somebody that's a feeler, they go into a room, and if there was a fight, they acknowledge the fight as something doesn't feel right. It's just like comes through your feeling. Yeah. And so these 4 senses have been absolutely escalation for my growth to connect with this higher part of us that has been, gifted to us to come here on earth.
Yeah. There's a book I read recently called The Extended Mind. And one of that goes through like tons of different scientific examples of this or research around this. And one of the ones, the studies they did was there was 3 different, there was a group, there was 3 different piles of cards. It was like digital. And 2 of the piles were rigged. for it being like a loss. It was like they had a certain amount of like points or money, and every time they would hit that pile, they would more consistently than not lose money, lose points. And then there was one pile that was like just normal, benign. And what they found, they actually measured some type of skin conductivity device to their fingers. And so anytime a person would get a little bit anxious or a little bit like subconsciously nervous, they would actually perspire a little bit, which would increase conductivity, and it would cause this device to pick that up. What they found was the people that were, well, the folks were able to, I think it was within like 12 or 13 tries, their body was able to detect that there was danger in these two rigged decks. But it took their conscious mind, it was like on average, it was like almost 50 tries before their conscious mind was like, hold on, there's something going on here. And so their body knew around 4 times quicker than what their conscious mind was aware. And if a person is living their lives exclusively from, the conscious mind, and kind of like divorcing themselves of the intelligence of the body, they'll probably end up having a much more like, stumbling path, and eventually, hopefully they'll come back into the wisdom of the body. But it feels like that's like a bit like what you're describing, or some like data around that.
Well, this is what I love about science today. I mean, it's all catching up with all of this that's been always said. And also, this is when body muscle testing can be really, good. But this is also, don't forget, this is verifying. So this way you can verify things in life. So, there's a different ways to muscle test and different trainings. It's all very valid, but it's still limited, because if you're wanting to get information that's from the ether, right? From the infinite information, then it's going to come through one of these senses, and then you can just affirm it or confirm it. It's like a confirmatory test versus an actual information that you will be able to use into creation. Yeah, no. So basically, by the way, this completes what I call the me. So what I've learned after all of these years of traveling and transforming, we really operate on these 3 levels. So it's the me, which is the body, mind, emotions, and spirit. That's the single consciousness. That's the thing that we can affect through our actions, through our thoughts, and through what we're doing. Then there is the we, which is the collective consciousness, and it is your tribe. So first, it's like, what are the people, right, we surround ourselves with? Are they moving us forward or backwards? And are there anything we need to recalibrate on that level? Yeah. And then I also like to use the we as a environment. So it's the water that you're drinking, food that you're eating, what frequencies are you being exposed to, anything of the collective that has the effect on the me. And then there's this B, so I call it a me, we, be model. The B is the supra consciousness, something that we can't really affect. We know that, universe was created 13.5 billion years ago. How in the hell did we get here, right? It's so far, so long. I mean, it's beyond our comprehension. And we operate between these 3. And essentially, I see it as a microcycles, middle cycles and macro cycles that we work through. And each and every cycle, whatever it's on your physical body, your relationships, your environment, it gives you an opportunity to learn. So I see Earth as this learning ground to essentially become the greatest version ever held about yourself.
Yeah, there was one of the things that came up during the ayahuasca thing that I had done, just like I said a few days ago. During the experience, one of the lessons, I could say, that I gathered from it was the power of relaxation, the power of surrender, which is another word that I think has been diluted in various different ways. But the ways that I block myself with limited belief systems, or different stories of that are kind of rooted in fear, or perhaps some level of resentment, or maybe anger, or sadness, or something that's kind of like, and there's nothing wrong with any emotion, but it's the bracing that manifests from those emotions that we may be running as this kind of like this ongoing baseline, and we don't actually, or I haven't addressed all of those, like allowed those emotions to really fully metabolize or digest or process. And that was one of the experiences that I noticed was all of those micro contractions that I was holding actually would express through my mind in various different forms of like fear was kind of the big thing, or like anxiety, or like, oh. And the process was this journey of relaxing deeper into that. And so when a fear came up, or when anxiety came up, or when something that caused me to kind of like clench, it was a process of opening up to that, surrendering to that, breathing into that. And the kind of metaphor that came through with it was that an individual, to access their power and abundance and all of the things that most of us desire, I believe it's actually in large part a process of surrendering to what you already are. And if you open up that space through releasing some of those contractions and those resistances and the resentments and the angers and all of the like the baggage from the past, which actually is physically stored in the body in the form of muscular contraction and hypertonicity and impingements and inflammation and maybe some type of irritable bowel syndrome or acne or holding on to adipose or any of the different symptoms that may manifest, there's actually a psychosomatic or mental emotional relationship to that. And an individual has the opportunity or availability to actually go through, if they have the resources and the container, and the know-how to do so, or the feel how to do so, to actually go through and relax, and like accept those parts within themselves. And then suddenly their shoulders start to drop a little bit, or their, the muscles around their masseter start to kind of relax a little bit. And it's like, holy shit, I didn't realize I've been in this low level contraction for the goddamn last 24 years. And to come into that awareness of like, oh, like it's safe to not brace. Suddenly I believe that I believe in it like a deep knowing way that allows the spaciousness for your nervous system and your whole physiology to finally come into homeostasis, because it's finally coming into the belief or the knowing that it is safe, like it's safe to thrive. It feels like some of what you're sharing is kind of hits on some of that. What do you think? Is that some new age hoopla?
No, it's all of it. I mean, that's the integration. And I mean, that's what I came into, is like, we can't just like focus on body. When we focus too much on just body, right, the body gets overpowered or blown or maybe injured, right? And this is why, like what you're saying, our life is about fully integrating every aspect of our being and of our experiences into this higher purpose, higher calling that is meant to grow and to accelerate and to learn. And it's funny because the governments or the society really knows this, right? They want you to stay in fear. They want you to be limited. And when I say fear, the easiest way to look at it is, if you are breathing in a shallow rhythm throughout the day, you become more acidic, you become more tensed, and we continue being this tensed and beings that don't allow this openness, this love, this nice flow of breath, nice surrender of any situation. And I've got this funny tool that whenever shit hits the fan, so to speak, and these opportunities come to our place, I like to sing this song. Okay, so you got to stay with me.
Yeah,
and it's very simple. It is what it is. So what? Clap, clap, clap. And you have to do the little cha-cha-cha. But here's the deal. You sing this song first, and then you're going to say, now what you're going to do about it. Because most people think that it means, I don't give a damn about anything. It is not. You surrender, you see it for what it is, and then you make the action to change it.
Yeah.
Because
that's where I think a lot of the new age conversation, rightfully so, falls off of most people's capacity to respect. Because it's like, okay, like what you're saying is just like do nothing and surrender and relax and just be like this blob of like love and light. It's like, no, that's not it. It's opening up to the potential of your ability to, you can heal and you can grow and you can have a healthy relationship and you can make money and you can, express in whatever way feels most authentic to you. And the way towards that is relaxing enough to allow the body to heal and like find homeostasis, and then using that energy to fucking go. Like then it comes into like, okay, now you're also a warrior. You're also a fighter. You're also a father. You're also, a friend. You're also like an employee. You also like you work. And that's, I think, where it's like the people that are too stuck in that side of like the work, physical work, can sometimes poo-poo on the side that's like, okay, just like relax and introspect. And the people that are on the relax and introspect side can poo-poo on the other side. Ultimately, they're a really great team. It's like masculine and feminine. And when there's a bias towards each side, like there is manifesting in culture as a whole, the patriarchy, it's bad, it's evil. It's like that's just actually a symptom, I think, of a deeper internal imbalance of that relationship of like non-doing and fucking doing. Like, go do. You gotta have both.
It's so true. And you know what? In our retreats and workshops, the manifestation always comes because it's so sad, because we've been also limited in manifestation abilities. And there's this whole like law of attraction thing, which there's a two ways to manifest. You can either manifest through your heart, or you can manifest through your mind. And what gets us in trouble is the manifestation when we think we want to have a bigger car and better house and more money. But what happens a lot of times, if it's not of our highest good, it might catches on fire. You might lose a job, and the house that you're dreamed of and created is going to you won't have money to pay for the loan or whatever that for might be.
Yeah.
And so what I've noticed with people is the spiritual community, they lack of doing. And then the physical community or the non-spiritual community, they lack of being. Yeah. And it can be summoned in a simple model. I call it the be, do, and have. And, most people live the opposite. They have to have the right money, have the right resources before they take the right action, and they never become it. But in the true way of manifestation is you become it, you embrace it, then you take the right podcasts or courses or training, and then you have the results as a natural flow of life, as a natural flow of action. And was this any of this spiritual? You don't have to read one spiritual book. This is just a way to see the results through your action,
I think that's the very common negotiation. Is like, okay, I'm going to just do myself to death. And then once I have finally gotten the car and the house and the job and all of these things, essentially I'm seeking safety and probably like respect and connection and love. I'm going to do myself there. And then once I get that, I promise I will be.
Yes, that's the thing.
Like that, I think that's the internal negotiation that many people experience.
And that's the loud, noisy voice you don't want to listen to. Just like
right. Yeah. And then also there's capacity to have compassion for that voice and be like, I see what you like. I like that. Like, thank you. Like you were such a powerful tool. Like, I appreciate you so much. It's nothing that I need to cut. It's nothing that I need to like push away. It's like, wow, like, thank you so much for being this amazing tool to want to like drive me forward. And it's also safe to incorporate other elements, and I think that's when you meet people that are really truly in that, it's like they're living their dharma, and they're like really like actually in line with that. It hits different. You're like, okay, there's like, this is the thing. It's the same as it's like respiration, inhalation, exhalation. The inhalation's activating more of that sympathetic side of the nervous system. And then you exhale into that more parasympathetic side, and your heart rate slows down and everything calms. Like, your body is naturally innately set to operate in pulsations. And then somehow the mind has been hijacked by, probably a largely industrialized technological culture that's driven more towards the bottom line than actually like, well-being, which is fine. Nothing wrong with that. But if you allow your physiology and your biology and your spirit, if you're willing to venture into that, to get hijacked by that prerogative, I think it typically leads to fatigue, burnout, and problems.
Yeah, and and I feel like also like a lot of people, right? They think that when they decide that I'm gonna go into what I think is the right path. And, so I'm going to go quickly back to the dark room. So basically the first time I've ever been to dark room, I walked in there, this is 7 years ago, and I walked in there as a busy entrepreneur. So I used to open Orange Theory fitness locations all over the country, and it was great. I mean, we had almost 100 locations under my belt in 7 different regions, and it was massive success, quote unquote, as an entrepreneur. But I was dead inside. I was empty, and I didn't want to open the next location and make the next million. For me, it was like, for fucking what? Like, we're so much more than this. And so, I literally walked into this cave, thinking, here's my phone, and I'm just gonna, for the first time, just completely hush everything out. And let me tell you, I mean, it took about 7 days before I finally surrendered. Wow. And when I say surrendered, I'm talking about I went into a complete bliss. I start crying and purging of just the most beautiful energies I've ever, felt. And it was that time, that day, that essentially I, for the first time, experience myself for who I am, not for who I am not. And that period is when I literally got the vision. It was the Noah Aeon, and my whole guidance was that, leaving that old entrepreneur head off and start creating, these experiences that we're doing today. And so for me, that was the massive realignment of my passion, purpose, and legacy, which I call it today, is where, my passion is music. So I create frequency sounds on a modern beat. We do these sober dance parties where, people have a 528 hertz on a tribal sound, and it's so much fun. Then my purpose is workshops, retreats, and lectures. And my legacy is the conscious businesses that are here for the highest good of the all, that are building a better future from what I been gifted as. Yeah. Now, here's the catch though. So I walked out of the cave and I was like, okay, I'm done with my old self and I'm just going to start selling everything off. And then I went the opposite, right? The complete other direction, which I had to learn through the hard way, wasn't, the balanced way to do it. And within 3 years, I lost everything. I literally went from millions of dollars in my accounts and locations all over the country to every single account below zero. And it was so bad that I literally had to fast for days at a time so my kids have food. And it was so bad that literally I was going from workshop to workshop, from event to event, to literally live off of my service, right? That my passion, my purpose. And thankfully it was making money. But here's the problem. Coming from business, my expenses were so high to keep up with everything I've created that I got into a massive cash flow issues where I would literally, let's say make $5,000 on an event on Saturday. But when the $5,000 deposited, I was so below zero that it wouldn't even make it above the zero. So I was still fucked. Yeah. And so, I literally had to lose everything right after that experience when I said, I'm going to live in service. And by the way, this is not that everybody has to do this. It was an alignment for me to help others to really notify where they are in that journey, where they are in this step, and, take actions that are, out of harmony and balance. But it was a time of my life where I was really dark. I was doing drugs and I was super unhealthy in a ways because of the stress. I went from flying jet to literally barely having a food. I got divorced. I mean, literally every relationship in my life, right after I decided, had to leave. And the reason why I'm saying this is that when we decide, right, all of these things will come up. And that's what I want to make sure that people don't get scared out, because it's kind of like there's like a little J curve. So you have a vision, right? That's the top of the J. And then you have a starting point at the start of the J. But before you can go up to the top, there's this little dip down. And whatever it's starting new companies, new businesses, you live in these J curves where from now, when I see the J curve, when I go down, it means, oh my gosh, it means we're going to push through and it's going to go up. So I see it with a totally new eyes. But for somebody that's for the first time took charge of their life and decided to make a difference, and hopefully it wasn't done because of cancer and car crash, those are moments in our life that happen because we haven't been listening for long enough time. But when this does happen, this is when you surrender. This is when you breathe. This is when you learn as many tools as you possibly can to comprehend how to make up the right action moving forward, and do not give up and go back to the old ways, because that will be the first open door.
Yeah. So if a person is going through their own like dark night of the soul type scenario, what would your suggestions be for moving through that in a graceful fashion?
Yeah, so I call this the 4 steps process to this journey, and I basically I found this process through my own life, where the cycles kept on repeating until I seen them. Right.
Yeah.
So here's the thing: whatever cycle you have, whatever it's your physical health, your relationships, it's I've dimmed it down and made it really simple into the me, we, be. Right. So let's just take for a moment just an example of your. Let's say that you live in with a high environmental toxins, something very physical, right? So let's say that you're feeling, like crap, and you're tired, you can't sleep, and all of whatever the symptoms might be. And the first part of the process is the wake up. So there is this awakening part where you have to. It's almost like a tracking or reporting system where you bring up to the surface that something is not working. Yeah. So for an example, wake up for your physical body would be you go into to a doctor and you get a blood work, and you pull up what is your blood work or food sensitivity or brain, right? You could do a brain scan if it's on the mental level. Now, when you wake up and you know this new information, you move into the next phase, and that's the cleanup, and that's the detox. You got to let it go. So if you're have a heavy metal poisoning, you're going to have to do a solid treatment for that to detox it out. If you have very negative relationship, you got to figure out how to let go of these negative thoughts or emotions on all of those levels. And when you clean up this part of you, so you open up the space, the room for more, you go into a power up phase. So power up is the third phase of this journey, and this is when maybe you get an ozone IV, right? Maybe you start bringing a new tribe into your collective. You rewire your emotions. So this is when you start adding the new stuff to this. And then the final step is rest up and repeat, which is you got to just take a chill. You got to take time for yourself. You got to go out there, maybe a cabin, maybe a day, even just a day of your life where everything is off. Your cell phone, your computers, where you can actually listen to who you are, to what is that you want, because most people don't even take that time to acknowledge this. So through this process, you can apply it to anything from the micro to micro cycles, and then you can start living in this aware, conscious process of change, of transformation on every level. And this never ends, by the way, too. I'm not master at anything but mastering this process, so I can continue welcoming everything that is coming to continue expressing myself in a grander, better form.
Yeah. And so what are some ways that a person can start to reduce some of the static in their environment? Like one of the things, I know that you are involved with an EMF device has some technology to help with the depolarization of EMF frequencies, which isn't like eradicating them. It's just neutralizing them. It's augmenting them in a way that's more benign for the human animal. Can we talk a little bit about that? Because that's something that I don't know about in an embodied way. I've read some research and, but I don't, it's something that it's still a bit mysterious to me. Like, is there validity to these devices? Is there data to back it up? Is like what are these devices and how does it work?
Yeah, so here's the deal. So for me, at first, right, when I start taking charge of the me, right, the body, mind, soul, emotion, and recalibrate, get the health, then I naturally noticed that the environment has a massive effect on you, right? Yeah. And so for me, it was first finding the right food, making sure you've got blue light blockers and red light before you go to sleep. So also sound, what type of music you're exposing yourself to, and so when you think of the we, the collective, all of that is either giving you energy or taking your energy away. And so it wasn't until I moved to Houston for a short period of time that I started experiencing unexplained health issues. So I had anxiety, I was a little depressed, I couldn't sleep, I had a burning sensation in my hands, and I've never had this ever in my life. But I've also never lived in a dense city like Houston in my life. And so I was all healthy, doing everything that I do today, fasting and all of the biohacking 101 that people receive from you. And I know, that you talk about. And essentially, I start thinking like, what's up with me? What is this? And so at that time was the rollout of 5G. It was, basically right before COVID when I moved there. And essentially I start paying attention to EMFs in general. Now, I, always thought of it as, is it true? Do EMFs actually affect us? Because there's so much conflicting information, right?
Yeah.
So I went on a journey to research, to study this matter. And me and my partner, actually, we created a whole webinar because of this. We have like a 90-minute free webinar where we teach everything about EMFs, all of the solutions and how to,
Do you have a link handy you could share?
Yeah, we'll add it to the comments, because I think that one, if anybody knows nothing about EMFs or has any questions about EMF, it literally sums it all in 90 minutes.
Do you know what it is off the top of your head?
Or
where people could go?
Yes. Let me see.
Yeah,
I think it's go.noaaon noaaon.com /live.
Okay.
And that should give people the direct access to this. Cool. But in this process, I've noticed that there's over 6,000 studies proving that EMFs are harmful, that EMFs do mess with our energy. And now this is just on the physical, scientific level that we know, right? But now I'm not even talking about the emotions, the spirit, the mind, like what does it do with that, right? Now, what I've learned through this process is their technology is not going anywhere, right? We're going to receive way more technology than ever. Whatever it's smart cities, smart cars. I mean, it's just all going to be popping. And worse to this is we're literally being carpeted by satellites that are going to be the next, future of Wi-Fi. So it gives us, first of all, no right. Like nobody's asking us, like, are we opting in or out? And is this healthy or not? Like that's
a ridiculous.
It's literally an experiment.
Yeah, maybe it's an experiment that trends in a really benign, positive direction. Like it's like, I think that it seems like there's significant data to suggest like probably not wise, but it's an experiment. Like no matter what your perspective is, right, wrong, amazing, bad, terrible, evil, satanic, angelic, like it's an experiment. Just leave it at that, and you're not electing to be a part of said experiment. Not necessarily suggesting that it's nefarious, but it is an experiment. So I think that within that, having enough, being resourced in that of like, okay, well, what can I do to equip myself as I enter into this experiment? I think is a worthy endeavor.
And that's exactly where my mindset was. So I was like, okay, I'm not going to go into fear. I'm not going into panic. And I want to go into a research phase to figure out what can we actually do to protect us and to live with technology rather than without. Now, in this process, I've learned that there's about 3% of the world that are electro-hypersensitive. So those are people that actually cannot even hold cell phone. Some of them are so sensitive to technology pollution that they just cannot live without being caged, completely from it. Now, there's about 35% people that have a moderate issues, and that's, could be unexplained stuff like myself.
And by caged, you mean like a Faraday?
Yes.
Like something to actually block electromagnetic frequencies. Which electromagnetic frequencies, it'd be good to define electromagnetic frequencies as well, because it's like there's EMF coming from all over the place in a very natural way. And, your banana has radiation that's coming off of it. So there's not like, I think this is something that can happen where someone can not know enough about something to actually understand the nuance, but they understand a few headlines. And you hear the concept of radiation, which I fall into this category, Mouse. But you hear that you hear a word like radiation or EMF or something like that, and you just immediately put that into this blanket category of, okay, that's deleterious, bad. But there's a lot of nuance to that as well. And then I wonder also, there could be something to perhaps some level of like hermetic stress to a certain level of radiation and perhaps EMF and things of the like. Yeah, so I think there's a lot of nuance to the conversation.
Yes, and I can quickly cover that. So there's a natural EMFs, and then there's man-made EMFs. So the ones that we're talking about, so natural would be like sun, or that's probably like the easiest one to explain. The man-made ones is so there's ionizing and there's non-ionizing. Now, the non-ionizing, that would be something like X-ray. Sorry, the ionizing would be something like X-ray, or things that we know that are bad for us, that are studied, and that we have to protect ourselves from whatever we go into the hospital, right? To take an X-ray. And then there is the other side, which is cell phones, microwave, computers, phones, TVs, anything that's within our home. Now, these are the ones that we know, literally we know from 60s that microwaves are harmful for us, and not just for the food, but actually even being around microwave in general. So if you still use it, turn that shit off and don't use it, period. That one is like a no-brainer. But then we also know that, for instance, there's been series of studies done on cell phones itself, and average cell phone is 5 to 15 times above the limit of the safety limit of the radiation that we can expose ourselves to. But again, all of the studies, for example, made by the industry, are done on a man with a massive skull that are 220 pounds. So it's very deceiving. And then when you think of, for example, children have a mini skull, and there is literally no safety limit when it comes to children. Now, Barry Trower is somebody that is doing an amazing research on this. He worked for the British Secret Service before, and now he's working through EMFs in general and bringing this knowledge out, because it's been out forever. It's just, again, it's kind of like cigarettes. Cigarettes in 50s were believed to be healthy. I mean, doctors were endorsing cigarettes. And the same thing is happening right now with EMFs, but the difference is EMFs are invisible, so we actually don't see it, and that's the hardest part. Even for me, was like, do I trust this or not? And so, then I went on a quest to figure out, like, okay, what can we do to protect ourselves? So I've tried every single, harmonization device out there, stones and rocks and stickers. And what I've noticed is, yes, some of this will help your biorhythms over a period of time. So most of the stuff will be 5-6 months, build up to help you coab better with certain amount of frequencies, but none of them will actually make the effect to depolarize essentially the negative effect of the technology pollution. And so this is when I found Hagen Thiers, who's actually the inventor of the year last year in European Union, for creating this technology called the key devices, or the key technology by QI.
Yeah.
By WaveGuard. And I was so intrigued by it that essentially, with me, I contact the person, I want to get to know them, meet them, interview them, make sure that this is what they say is true. And what really was mesmerizing for me is two things. Number one, there is no device on the market that actually does what this technology does. So think about depolarization as, you're inside of the room and you have these focused laser beams of technology pollution coming through you and around you. And to give you a quick example how bad this is, if you go underneath a parking garage inside of a high rise where the signal is much lower, and you have your 5G turned on your phone, you're going to get up to 18 different towers shooting at you and going through you. So you're literally like in a microwave in that time. And that's horrific. That is not, okay. And so essentially, first of all, by the way, we give a free EMF consult. So our team will be able to take listeners on. They get on a call and they will ask them, how big is your house? Where do you live? Where do you go? And based on that, they will help you eliminate what are the EMF sources and how to properly manage that. And second, when I found the WaveGuard, so it's got 25 independent studies proving that it actually works. So it's all non-industry funded, which is the key. And a majority of them are blindsided, which means, we don't know nobody knows the results, whatever it's the researcher or it's the participant. They don't know what's going to happen. They don't know how is it going to happen. And then we just know that it worked. And some of the most significant things that were found, well, A is depolarization, meaning it renaturalizes the space that you're living in. So from all of the layers...
What does polarization compared to depolarization mean exactly for a layman like myself?
Yeah, so think about it this way. If you live, so let's say that you're sitting in a house, right, or apartment, whatever you might be, and in that space, you've got this field. So we have a field around our body that's all measurable, right, by science, and then we've got fields that are shooting. There's a major field from the Earth, right? So Earth has its frequency, has its own field, but then that field maybe. There's a different ways how to imagine it, but that field essentially is either natural, right? What our biorhythms are supposed to work in, or it's disruptive by these other frequencies. So when it's polarized, it's all beautiful, perfect, working well. When it's depolarized, it's essentially taking away the layer of these focus beams and making it back to the natural state, just like, earthing would do. So, perfect example is when you go to Earth, right? You connect with your feet, with you ground yourself, and you can, observe more of the Earth's frequencies, what's natural to us. So what this does, it naturalizes that back to its perfect state. So that way we can co-op and we can live with technology rather than, trying to do all these other things to be without.
And how something that I personally do that I find to be very supportive is I just go outside a lot. So I and I take my shoes off and I get sunlight and I take my shirt off and I expose my eyes to the sun and I hang around trees or I'll jump in a body of water. And it's not like a tinfoil hat way. It's just it just feels good. And I can notice a great amount of clarity in comparison to, hanging out inside of like a hotel room or something of the sort. Is that something as well that can be quite supportive of just allowing the body to have I don't know if bioelectric purge is appropriate term, but is there some kind of discharging that can happen as a product of just taking a walk?
Oh my gosh, so you absolutely got it. So what's amazing, so with technology, more we absorb, it's accumulative effects. So if you live in downtown Houston or New York, or you are inside of an airplane, right, with all of the TV screens and all of the power outlets, you're just getting bombarded by this, right?
You're getting a lot.
And this is why we feel jet lag and sluggish and tired. So no matter what, earthing, I'm on Earth right now. I literally do this every day. I even have a bed that has, grounding connected to the wall. And so that is huge. Inflammation, connection, nervous system. That works, pretty much for anything to stay connected. But here's the deal. Let me give you an example. So let's say that you go out into your favorite park, but then there is an antenna above you. Then there is a 5G tower right next to you. Then there is a beam that is, let's say there's a satellite that's connected towards you. Then you're literally in the path even while you are in nature. And this is, by the way, why I found this website called antennasearch.com. And antennasearch.com is amazing because you can put your zip code and you will know how many antennas there are, how many satellites, and also you can track that way, does it come through your house or not? And so what's funny, I used to, do my regular walk until I found this search. And then I noticed that on my walk, I'm literally in the line of this while I'm trying to do something healthy, right? So what I did is I switched the way I'm walking, where I'm walking. So that way I even adjust to not be in a direct line of this technology.
I'm looking at Antenna Search right now where my spot's at. There's an immense amount in downtown Austin. But my little nook here, that's not too bad. So these red dots that I'm looking at on Antenna Search, this is a kind of a fun thing for people to look up. If you're near a red dot, how far do I want to be away from one of these red dots?
So distance is always your biggest friend. So that whatever it's your cell phone. So like if you're still calling on your phone and you have your phone right next to your ear, that is a big no-no because it's overheating and that heat is causing a lot of trouble. So when it comes to like general maintenance, right? Like how to stay away from it as much as possible. Distance is your friend.
Yeah.
And also things like, I'm wearing these air tube headphones as well.
Yeah, right.
So having everywhere you can possibly mitigate is always the best solution. And then obviously adding a key shield device into your home. So I mean, I have a home one which covers the whole house. And then I have so that's the key home, and then key shield is something I travel with. So I literally fly with it everywhere. It's in my backpack. It covers about 16 feet around you in diameter. And that one I put in the car, I put it with me. And I've also noticed jet lag, for example, because, you can mitigate a certain amount of even high altitude radiation. This part is not studied, but it is in theory, right? That's what it should do. And it's been felt by me.
Yeah, I have one of them beside my bed, and I like it. Like it was interesting when and it's really hard for me to parse what's placebo and what's nocebo and what's just like my imagination. But upon taking it out of the box, I noticed feeling good. I don't know like what I'm not that like that's N of one anecdotal could be in my mind. But I personally do like to have it. I have it like right beside my head, beside my bed while I sleep. I have like the little tube one. And what is in that? Isn't there some kind of like fluid or something in it? It's not just it's very beautiful. It's cool. It's like wood top and copper on the outside. Like what is the actual technology in there? Because I'm genuinely very curious about this stuff and skeptical, but also very curious and open simultaneously. I'm skeptically open.
Yes, and I appreciate that because I was skeptical too, and it's exactly like the most important thing in life is do your own research, and no matter where you are, don't take anything for granted, right? And don't just look at research by look at who's doing the research for what purposes, right? That's also important. And by the way, for those that are skeptics and want to learn more about the science part, we actually have a science page. It's that noaaon.com, noaaon.com /pages/science. And so in that, you can get a real deep dive on all of the 25 studies.
And they're independent studies. They're not done by people that have any intention to sell a product.
And they're all specific to the product. So also a lot of companies, they use studies on maybe crystals, or they use studies on different elements inside of the product. But this is the actual product that we're talking about, which was also yes and yes. Now it's called Key Liquid is the liquid inside. And it's a proprietary liquid, which I can tell you something really interesting. So it doesn't open, right? But if you were to break the thing and open it up, and you open up the bottle of the liquid, you can literally flip it upside down, and the liquid is not going to go down. So the inventor, this is why he got Inventor of the Year, because it's so groundbreaking, this way to basically depolarize, that essentially it's I don't know myself, right? Like nobody knows, but he charges it in a very specific chamber. So he built these chambers that charge the device, and that also certifies the device. So whatever device people are getting, they know that it's charged, it's certified, by the company from this charger, and essentially it's there's no guesswork. You know it works.
Wait, so it doesn't? Is it just because it's like the old like vacuum straw trick where there's no pressure, there's no airflow in the top, or like why doesn't it come down? I don't understand.
So it's funny, right? So that's something we can't say, but it's in that liquid that it's using the liquid to basically work to renaturalize the space. So it's really the liquid is what makes this thing happen. And then
what is the liquid? It's like a proprietary thing.
Yeah. That's the one that.
God dang it, Pavel! What the hell is a liquid?
I would love to as well, but the thing is, it's so profound, right? It would kill the inventor's know-how.
Wait, hold on. So just this one guy knows what the hell the liquid is?
Well, his company, right? They
Come on. Well, so all right, so he's got this secret. Like, why wouldn't he want to share about it? I don't understand.
I think people would then duplicate it, right? So I think he would kill his business model, right? With this. But I know I'm with you. I want everything to be able to have for everyone and share. But until it's an open source and one love and one unified world, we're gonna have to wait.
Wow, how interesting, huh? But there's data backing that this mysterious liquid has. Is it the liquid itself, or is it the casing that's around? Is it just like a tube of liquid? Like, what is in this thing?
It's a tube of liquid with there's some crystals. There's some other secret recipe to it, and then it's covered by copper for grounding. But the copper is really it's an add-on. I mean, we know copper has its own set of science and benefits for grounding. But yeah, the magic of that field that creates is in that liquid. And it literally works with Earth. I mean, it's Earth's technology. And by the way, that's, to me, the best technologies are not, man-made, right? They are using what's already provided to us.
Interesting. All right. What do you think about Leela Quantum? What do you think about the other thing I have? What is the, what is it called? What's the green light? I have one sitting on top of my... Yeah, what do you think of Somavedic? What do you think of Leela Quantum? Like, what do you think of these other devices?
Well, you're putting me in a really, really bad spot.
Nice. You're in a tight spot.
So first of all, I've used all of them. Now,
love a tight spot.
Here's the thing: they work differently. So it is not that they're better or worse. It's just a completely different technology. So harmonization and depolarization, that's what really makes the difference. And I personally love Leela. I use it myself when I travel, and I have it on me. And it does take 6 months, right, for you to wear it. And I honestly wasn't as I guess adamant to keeping it that long, but I think those are great tools. I mean,
what if you shelf it? You ever think about that?
What do you mean? Like a
that's like a rave club term where you put pills in your ass.
Wow,
you ever think about that?
That's cool. I mean, I know this
chakra.
from cocaine, but that's different.
Dude,
just kidding.
That's the future. That could be the future. That would be my proprietary directions.
That is cool.
We don't talk about that.
You just keep it in you.
Keep it shelved.
I learned something new.
Yeah. Thank you. You ever do any prostate massage?
But funny story, in Thailand, they do a balls massage, and it's like one of the best things you can do for your productivity.
Wow. What do they do? How do they massage the old satchel?
It's excruciating pain. I don't know why I keep on doing this shit. I mean, that's like I've done some crazy stuff, from like training with the samurais in Japan to, literally getting my balls massaged.
How hard? How firm?
So you've got these rocks or basically it's like decalcifying your balls, basically. That's what they're doing. And at first it hurts like a motherfucker. I mean, it's really crazy, but it opens up all of that, chi, all of that flow, because we store life force in there, right? So there is a lot of, beautiful things in it.
Wow. Is this something do you got like a ball massage practice?
I wish, but it's one of those things that I'm all about discomfort, and doing things. Yeah. But boy, you've really got to be committed, to
that's a strong commitment.
Stick with it. And it's not because it would be awkward, right? Like that's a whole nother layer of thing to it. It's the freaking pain. You're like, ah.
What's some other weird shit that you did? And we gotta wrap up soon. But is there others like stand out? You've done a lot of weird shit, sir.
Well, I told you, I was seeking truth. I was seeking, what is true meaning of life, and how can I get rid of this depression and anxiety and pain and disease, right?
Squeeze the balls.
And yes, you gotta. It starts with a good ritual.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah,
No,
what's some other stuff?
so Zen Master training is another one that was also in Japan, part of the samurai camp, and that one was really like not as fun. That's what I've learned, that there is fun way to learn, and then there is the old paradigm way to learn.
Yeah.
And so when I tell you I had a monk from 4 a.m. until 8 a.m. every day, walking back and forth with a stick, waiting whenever we start drifting and falling asleep to hit us from the back to reawaken. That was really
For how long?
4 hours every morning, and
For how
then
long? Like how many days?
it was a 30-day training, so it was like
Oh,
a
wow.
full, yeah, it's like a
Jeez.
month in Japan. And and what's crazy though is the simplicity. The baseline of the meditation is you just count to 10 and you go back down from 10 to 1. And that's all you do, just to keep your mind occupied. And then, once you get past this, you can hit some really transcendent states.
Yeah.
But oh my gosh, you're just like shaking when the monk is going to come back.
Wow. And then have you done Vipassana?
I've never done Vipassana because of I prefer doing darkroom, just because with darkness, it takes about 4 to 5 days to clear out your pineal gland. And then about day 6, 7, 8 is when you start just pounding massive doses of DMT, and that's when the whole thing turns into light. And when you don't eat on top, it has this other layer of connection, because you don't waste your time digesting. So for me, Vipassana is a torture in a way, because all you have left to do is think about the next meal, and then you see everyone and everything. And not saying that it's bad. I think it's still amazing tool. But for me, I rather get everything turned off. So all I have to do is, go in.
Yeah. What an interesting life you've led, sir. What's next? What other weird shit are you getting into?
Well, so, my thing right now is, how do we give this out, to the world? So really, we do a lot of stuff in person. So I'm actually in Bend, Oregon. We had an amazing event.
Dude, I recognize the red fence. I have a place in Bend. I lived in Bend for a couple years.
No way.
Yeah, I was reflecting on going to Bend this year, actually.
Amazing. There's a great community. We start, so every place we go to, we start WhatsApp groups, and we now have about 50 WhatsApp groups around the world. And these people from 2 years ago, it now has 400 people, and they meet every week. They do cold plunges, they do breath work.
Cool.
So you have to join the group when you're here.
Yeah, I'll join it, man. That'd be great. I love that. That'd be really
meet
fun.
some of these guys.
Are you there all summer? How long are you there?
No, I'm just here for next few days, and then I'm flying to London for a series of events there. So we're on a summer tour right now. We're doing Europe, US, and Asia.
Great.
And
That's
so
cool.
for me,
Man, I'm like, so if people haven't visited Bend, I would highly recommend having a visit to Bend. I think Bend is one of the most like special places that's like still kind of, it's on the map, but not quite on the map. And there's something very, like when I arrive there, that has some odd pull that like keeps me there. Have you noticed that at all?
For sure. The community here too. I mean, the people are so open, so willing, so helpful. Nobody yells at you when
everybody's like Flanders. You're like walking down the street and everyone's like, "Hi neighbor, like how can I help you?" I'm like, "I don't even know you. What do you mean help me? Like what do you like is there anything I can do for you? Like what's going on here?" It's very cool.
It's beautiful. We're in an Airbnb, and exactly what you're saying. We like walk outside, and people like think, "Hey, did you guys just move in?" And I'm like, "What?
Like,
this is
you want to
so
be my
awesome."
friend? I'm like, "No, I don't. Who are you?" Like that's just how we are. Okay.
But wouldn't this be beautiful, right? Like that's and then you go to New York or like LA. I've had it on the hikes. People literally like don't even say hello or like look at you. Like
very different.
It's so sad.
Very different. Well, all right. Well, I really enjoy getting to connect with people like you who are like living kind of on the edges of normalcy. And because I feel like normalcy, I'm not impressed by normal that much, like statistically, it seems like normal is it's not the team to be on. And it's also, there's value in respecting all walks of life and versions of living and whatnot. But I really appreciate you as a person that's willing to challenge norms and go
Thank
out
you.
and do very hard things. And in like the search of deeper self discovery, and truth, and like what truth even means in the first place, because what your truth is now may not be what it is in 5 minutes or 5 years. So just being in that openness to deeper levels of authenticity and truth, I think, is a really valuable quality. And so where should people go from here if they want to go deeper into that within themselves and reduce some of the static and, come into greater alignment, like literal and figurative alignment within themselves? Like, what's the best resources? What's the best direction for people to go from your perspective?
Well, so obviously, start today. I mean, there's no wait for anything. And in whatever shapes and form or teacher you're being called to, I mean, follow that heart, follow that journey, because there is no wrong way, because even just taking a step forward is a way.
Yeah.
And I think, with us, I mean, I literally dedicated my life to service and to help others to discover this. And so, the way we do it is either through our digital stuff. So we have tons of courses from breathwork, meditation, dance, all together, as well as just education. We have a on-demand library, which we're gifting 3 months for free as part of this to
Great.
listeners, and we'll have the link below. So that is that. Physically, when people want to connect with us, we do retreats, workshops, and immersive experiences all around the world, as well as we do a lot of private stuff. So we've done anything from music festivals, curating our own stage, all the way to working 101 or creating a conscious parties and gatherings for people.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have a series of products which, we're working on this EEG technology that people will literally be able to do real life classes and monitor where their brain is. And we can actually tell them, right? Are you doing it right or not? And I really appreciate all of you listening and being part of this.
Social media, is there a place to go for that stuff?
Yes, absolutely. So it's a Noah Aon official, NOAAON official for all of them.
Thanks, man. I really appreciate you.
Same. Thank you so much as well.
Yeah,
And
and yeah, let me know if you come through Austin. And thank you all so much for tuning in. Thanks for maintaining an open mind through some of the directions that we went. And yeah, I just appreciate getting to share conversations like this so much. And that's it. That's all. I'll see you guys next week. Hope you guys enjoyed that conversation. Per mentioned, listen to the end of this for the 15-minute breathwork practice that it really knocked my socks off. It was very impactful. It is something that I will continue to come back to. So I'm so grateful for Pavel to leave us with this. I hope you can come back to this with regularity. Make it be something you do, I don't know, every Tuesday, anytime you want a little pick me up. And also, if you want to learn more about Pavel, you can find his website at noaaon.com. That's NOAAON.com, and be sure to subscribe to this so you get each week's episodes. Check us out on the YouTube as well to see the video. That is Align Podcast on YouTube. Thanks for the reviews. Thanks for sharing. Thanks for doing you. Appreciate you guys. Enjoy the 15-minute breathwork experience.
so I'll walk you through a quick, what I like to call system reset tool or experience.
Right.
So let's just close our eyes. And, first thing first, I like to call all of my energy back. So I'm calling all of my energy back from all the people, all the places, wherever I left it, whatever it's on my phone, in my mind, or through travels. Just sense what belongs to you coming back to you. Now, when you feel this, maybe it comes in images, feelings, knowing, in any different shapes. Just acknowledge it and give thanks to all of you returning back. Now let's reverse that. And now I am sending all of the energy back to all the people and all the places that have left it on me. People leave imprints whenever they think of us, whenever we go into different locations, whatever we like it or not. It is not of us, and it's important to discern who is that us. And from this place, Just connect into a rhythmical breath. Inhale, the same length as your exhale. And first, just imagine a place somewhere on earth that you love it the most, somewhere in pure nature, somewhere where you've visited before, and just sense the trees, the birds. If it's in the mountains, see the beautiful sky, and just start giving thanks to the whole of Mother Nature from where we came about. Thanks for all of the elements, the food, the water. Just start cultivating this gratitude around your heart and start extending this feeling to all of Mother Earth, as if we're sitting on top of our mother that gave us life. Now put all of this love into this little sphere around your heart and just thank you, love you, all of that generation of gratitude, and send it down through your pranic tube, through your spine, into the heart of Mother Earth, into the center of Earth, and just anchor it right there, that deep connection. And when you feel this connection now coming back from Mother Earth, just sense it coming back through your spine and just filling up all of your physical body, mental body, emotional body, esoteric body. Just feel it all coming back as Mother Earth loves us so much. And now keep that same attention, that same love, but turn your imagination to the night sky and imagine stars. See the Milky Way, the moon, and feel into the vastness of space, how big everything but Mother Earth, all of creation. Some cultures call it the Father Sky. And start feeling gratitude and love for Father Sky, and start placing it into the sphere around your heart, and just cultivate this love frequency until you send it through the top of your head up into the sun, to Father Sky's heart, and just allow this anchoring while you're feeling Mother Earth, diving into the heart of Father Sky, and sense the energy coming back to you. This time through the top of your head, just filling up all of your body, all of your mind, all of your emotions, all of that spirit. And sense the love that Mother Earth has for Father Sky, as well as for you, this holy Trinity, the true meaning of this divine connection. Give this thanks and love to yourself, to this beautiful temple that we're lying in. And from this deep connection, we're going to take few deep breaths. We're going to first breathe into your nose and out your mouth. And we're going to be generating more of this love, more of this connection for this session, moving from the first, second, and third energy centers up, where we spend way too much time. So let us start breathing deep into your belly, chest, all the way into your head on inhale. And exhale out your mouth. It's the regular rhythmical flow of Wim Hof retention breathing. Inhale and exhale. Find that rhythm that serves you. And as you're inhaling, you're generating more of this love. As you're exhaling, you're letting it go. Inhale, exhale. Now, as we're moving into this rhythm, can we speed it up? Can we go a little bit deeper, a little bit faster, generating more of what you already are? And as we're going towards the end, we've got about 10 seconds to this first round. Can we go even further? Final 3. Final 2. Final deep inhale. Hold your breath and just squeeze your bathroom muscle and hold all the energy in your first energy center, rebalancing, recalibrating your root chakra. Feel that stillness. Feel that silence. Feel that connection. Exhale. Letting it go. And now moving into the second round, but this time inhaling in and out your mouth. And we're going to be connecting into the second energy center. Let us breathe. And with each breath, keep on activating right below the navel. Keep on escalating this powerful knowing of your power, bringing the power back to you and generating all of that emotions and energy that you wish to feel into this session. Final 10. Accelerate. Embrace. Activate. Final 3. Final 2. And 1. Deeply inhale. Hold your breath on inhale and squeeze your lower abdomen, putting all of the focus into your second energy center. Release. Feeling that stillness, feeling that love, feeling that silence. And for the final and third round of this breath, we're going to lift the energy up into your solar plexus. We're going to move into that energy, that vitality, that chi that we're going to activate. Let us begin to breathe again into your mouth and out of your mouth. And this time you know where you're heading, moving any of that stagnant flow, stagnant energy. Continue opening up this center around your solar plexus, sensing it maybe even spinning clockwise. And starting to feel also that energy lifting up through the heart, through your throat, into the center of your brain, into the top of your head. And for the next 10 seconds, can we go deeper? Can we go a little bit stronger? Can we go a little bit faster? Let us cultivate that emotions of I am powerful, I am strong. Final 3, final 2, final 1. Inhale. Hold your breath, squeeze your upper abdomen. Now add also your lower abdomen, your bathroom muscle. Squeeze your arms. Move this into your heart, throat, center of your brain, top of your head, and above your head. Exhale, release, and hold your breath on exhale, sensing the connection to the divine, about 8 inches above your head, feeling that intention for this session, for this time, activating that love for yourself, love for your mission, love for your why. Hold that stillness, silence, underneath the noise, underneath the sound. Inhale one more time. And this is just a cleansing hold, cleansing feel of more of connection, more of what you are. Recalibrating, reharmonizing, and upgrading each and every aspect of our lives. Letting it go. And back to that slow, subtle breath. Body awareness, where we are breathing in and every out of pore of your skin, as if this champagne bubble was bubbling up all around you, drawing with each inhale from that pranic source, letting it go with each exhale. And each exhale becomes so subtle, so slow, that if there was a flickering candle in front of you, it would stay still. And I want to welcome you to this flow, to this day. And thank you for allowing me to take you through this. You may open your eyes and coming back to the rhythm of our lives.
Damn. Thank you so much. That was not what I was anticipating, sir.